Good. That's always good. So a lot of times the way in is longer, and then the way out is goes fast, right?
I slept for maybe 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, we went out to we were so little. We were smaller than her. Do you remember that?
I do know some of the supervisors that went over like they were traveling. So that's what really is not hard. But then what they say to you guys. Yeah, they're really does. Oh yeah, those one of the biz guys. Yeah, they're still around. Yeah. These are the
Hot. Yeah, he's so stylish, right?
It's supposed to be the hottest thing in the world.
Supposed to go to the US here. Stephanie.
You want to share?
Pack is fast.
I have a chair in my car. No, I can go. Are you sure?
I'm just gonna sit for a minute.
Oh, okay. That's what my brother said on Friday. Just for the hottest thing. At least I have a dress. My mother the one
just there yesterday.
Yeah, not so much. Just a little bit, so.
I always kind of, I never remember where it is.
Yeah.
Goodbye, you want sure?
Yeah.
Really good jobs.
What site is it?
Almost a hard day though.
Yeah. It's not easy.
Dad, my grandparents.
How old is she?
I was like, screw it, I'm throwing it out. My weight, my grade.
Yeah.
And Friday.
Yeah. And she was your mom's mom?
Yeah.
She was completely quiet.
Cutting the grass there yesterday.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is research. Like a lot of
Yeah.
all that rain.
Yeah.
They do.
Where was she
Yeah.
at?
The rest of
My
it.
God, there is. Yeah.
I always give you that one.
Yeah.
Just there for the paycheck.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went over there. They're nice. Yeah.
So you do
Unmarked. Some of them are.
I'm going with the new agency to go to Alberta.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think I'm going to do my nursing. Coming back here.
So of course when Jake was little,
I did my biology.
baby pictures of him.
That's awesome. Yeah. So
It's just my little lesson. Professional pictures.
yeah. Well, you can come under twice. You can hold it. Thanks.
When you start rolling this. Good look on here.
Don't tell him that.
No, you guys don't like it.
No, yeah.
Start hedging.
Decided to let us go farm out all of those rain. So they kept about 3 guys. And I was 37. So they, Friday, they
Who's she?
you guys
What did she do?
gave us since it was a Sunday,
Jefferson by the nursing home.
5 weeks of holiday.
By Mandalay.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm behind.
Let's enjoy a time. I figured I'm not going to get a good flight at the airport. I got hired there with me. No, I was refueling the plane. That's very important. They don't fly without fuel, right? So, anyways, yeah. So we talked about that.
No.
It was similar
They moved
to
out.
moving, right? So I watched the video.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he did. Yeah, but that's one thing.
Yeah.
Ima?
Esaenai Eharim Asainai El Ehari Me'ain Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Va'etz Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Va'etz Hayiten Lamor Raglecha Hayanum Shomrecha Hine lo yanum velo ishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomrecha Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Adonai Shomrecha Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Yom HaShemesh Lo Yakeka Ve'yareach Balayla Adonai Yishmorcha Mikora Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai Yishmor Tzedcha Uvoecha Me'ata Ve'ad olam Adonai Yishmor Tzedcha Uvoecha Me'ata Ve'ad olam Al Mekoma Tavo V'Shalom. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to our pallbearers, the mitzvah of being a pallbearer. Thank you for being with us. I'll now translate the psalm we chanted to begin our service. This is Psalm 121, known in Hebrew as Shir LaMa'alot, a song for ascending. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. You see, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, your guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God guards your going and coming now and forever. May Debbie Stoffman go unto God in peace. Hatzur tamim, Paulo ki chol rachab mishpat, el emunah ve'nav el tzadik v'yashar hu. Tzadik ata Adonai lamidu lachayot, asher b'yadcha b'gadon kol rochot, chalil lecha zichron el limchot. V'yihiu nainecha, v'rachamim leinu fekuchot, ki lecha Adon harachamim ve'aslichot. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. Vehu rachum yechaber v'lo yashchit, ve'irba lashiva po v'lirko chamato, ve'yashov he'afar al haaretz she'haya, ve'aruach tashuv el ha'elohim asher netana. God has given, God has taken, praise be the name of God. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Debbie's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal, and may God send comfort to those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. Thank you again, everyone, for coming here to the Shaarey Zedek Cemetery. And to those of you who cannot be with us in person, we still very much appreciate and thank you for joining the online broadcast of this service. As you have all joined your hearts together, family, friends, and community, to honor Debbie Stoffman, Dvorah Esther, Bat Eliyahu HaKohen Umiriam, the daughter of Molly and Alex Toole, Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory. We are here today to pay tribute to her life, to show her the ultimate respect of accompanying her here to her final resting place, and we are here to say goodbye. Debbie passed away Friday night, the 29th day in the Hebrew month of Sivan. She was 71. She is survived by her loving family, her husband Harvey, her son Mark and daughter-in-law Eva, her daughter Jennifer, her grandson Nathaniel, her brother Meyer of Toronto. She was predeceased by her parents, Alex and Molly, of blessed memory, Zichronam Livracha. In Jewish tradition, there's a piece of wisdom. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than a constant sickness. For the last 2 years of her life, there's been a lot of pain for Debbie, for her family. Our collective hope and prayer are that her suffering is over, and that Debbie is now deservedly at peace. In today's service, we will hear eulogies, words of tribute about Debbie from her cousin Candace and from her son Mark. By way of introduction, I can offer this story. I first met Debbie about a year ago when I began work as a rabbi at the Simkin Center. The Simkin Center is where she has lived for the last 2 years. On this particular day, she was working in the rehab department, which is near my office, and I had to go check out what I was overhearing because there was this animated and chatty lady talking up a storm, so I had to go over and introduce myself. The first thing she asked me, "Do you know my kids?" 1 second in and already Debbie made it clear to me she was a mother. I've learned in the time since that meeting that more than maybe anyone, Debbie Stoffman was born to be a mother. And that her work in early childhood education could not have been more perfectly suited to her nature as a person. She was born Debbie Toole, Deborah, but she went by Debbie, in Fort William, Ontario. Her family was involved in the Jewish community of Fort William. She came from a family of Kohanim, They had an important role in the synagogue and attended regularly. It was probably there that she first picked up many of the melodies that she was fond of singing throughout her life, and that often came back to her in the services at Simkin Center over the last 2 years. When she was 12, Debbie moved with her family to Winnipeg. She went to Grant Park for high school, and then after school traveled, ending up in Israel, where she spent time on a couple of kibbutzim, before returning to Winnipeg and taking courses in early childhood education. She devoted her working life to numerous daycares around the city, most notably the daycare she ran right out of her home in Garden City for over a decade, from 1990 until the early 2000s, the Stay and Play daycare. Debbie thrived as a daycare worker because she was a mother in everything she did. At all times, she exuded love, gentleness, warmth, and caring. It was in her intuition and her instinct, always shining through. She understood and was understanding of other people. Never judgmental, she was always welcoming and accepting. She was also so friendly and funny, so funny. Debbie never lost touch with her inner child and called upon it often. She was playful, young at heart. She used to say working with kids kept her young. But truly, she was just young at spirit. At Simkin Center, she spoke proudly and often about the years she worked with kids, and every kid that passed by lit her up. It's not surprising the personal connection she made, that some of them stayed intact years beyond students at the daycare. One family in particular, one kid in particular, has maintained a relationship with Debbie throughout his life, and is now almost 30. It also helped that she was an emotional person. She was real, never afraid to cry, never afraid to see the beauty in even the smallest moment in life. After all, her family did get her a special embroidered Debbie's crying towel. All of this informed her deeply family-oriented lifestyle. It's because that was the kind of family Debbie grew up in. She was very close with so many of her cousins. This was a family where the extended branches gathered often for simchas and holidays, and the cousins were close as a result. Some of the younger cousins, I'm told, even famously followed Debbie around unrelentingly. She was very close with her grandmother. That was a special bond. And then, of course, her own children. She loved so much. She ran the house, made sure everything was in order, made sure her kids learned skills she might not have had when she was young, made sure they could cook. And she loved them unconditionally. Mark will speak to this at his eulogy, the unique and special mother-son bond she forged with him based on humor, fun, and games, but also that they had a deep connection. When we were sitting together as a family, he remembered one time he was having not such a great day, and when he called his mom, Debbie knew just by how Mark said hello that something was up. With Jennifer, she and Debbie were so close, like best friends. They would talk on the phone for hours about anything and everything. Her commitment to her children, her love, is reminiscent of a very famous line in Yiddish Jewish folklore from the song My Yiddish Mama. In water, through fire, she would have run for her child. Don't even get us started talking about when she became a grandma almost 2 years ago, when Nate arrived on the scene. I can tell you from being in her room at Simkin, you wouldn't know that there was anyone else in the world from all the pictures of Nate on her wall. Not surprisingly, Debbie also seamlessly found her way into the lives of her kids' friends, and always as a mother figure. Even members of the Blue Bombers, who got to know Debbie through Mark's work for years with the team, knew her by her very famous handle, Mama Stoff. Debbie Stoffman made an impression on everyone she met, and usually right away. She was just great with people. For all the same warm, friendly, motherly reasons, she was great with kids. But she was also confident. She stood up for herself and spoke her mind, and even had a sharp, direct tongue if she needed it, as Cousin Isaac found out on one occasion. But there's a reason why she made fast friends all over the Simkin within days of moving in, with residents and staff, And the same thing at the hospital when she was there a decade ago for months after breaking her knees when she fell. She just made friends with everyone. She was even incredibly close with her mother-in-law. They had a special bond, and Debbie always felt accepted and very close to Harvey's parents. It's because Debbie was all about love. She put love into the world and often made people feel love and then receive their love in return. With Harvey, they were set up in 1981 on a blind date on Passover. Luckily, he survived being given the wrong name when he called her up looking for Betty instead of Debbie. They made it through that first date, and the following year they were married. And together they built a home with their family, Mark and then Jennifer. A home where they supported each other with at all times love, understanding, and especially, thanks to Debbie, humor. She had a terrific sense of humor that came out in her predictable one-liners, her catchphrases, her practical jokes, even in her looks. I would often notice and remark that she could move her eyes and her face in funny ways to convey exactly what she was thinking. Of course, all of this was perfect with kids. Debbie Stoffman loved to sing. She read avidly. She loved crafts and tinkering with things. She loved to knit. She had a deep love for her dogs. Cookie, whose middle name Shadow came from the fact that she really never left Debbie's side, even once following her into the shower with the water running. And Iris. She loved Neil Diamond and the sound of music. But at the top of the list of the things that Debbie loved, kids, and especially her family. It's fitting the names that we get given, sometimes the names that choose us more than we realize are chosen. Devorah, Esther are Debbie's names. In Hebrew, two of the strongest female heroines in the Bible. Esther, Debbie's middle name, of course, one of the two women who has a book named for her, the heroine of the festival, the holiday of Purim, who embodies courage and doing the right thing even in the face of death, tremendous leadership, strength, and resilience. But also Devorah, one of the few female prophetesses and judges, also a leader, also known for a very famous chapter in the prophets, the Song of Deborah. How fitting for Debbie Stoffman as well, for whom music and singing were such a part of her life and interaction with kids and with people. Much like Devorah and Esther, the stories of Debbie Stoffman's life and the people she touched throughout it will serve as an inspiration. May she rest in peace. May her memory be a blessing. Candace.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I have a few words of tribute to my beloved cousin, Deborah Esther Toole Stoffman, known to all of us very fondly as Debbie. I'd like to start off by saying that it is a sad occasion that has brought us all together this afternoon. I always consider these somber family gatherings as the silver lining in the cloud of a sad event. This bringing of people together is our loved one's way of keeping us all close as a family. Debbie was a wonderful woman, a true Eshet Chayil, woman of valor. She put up a valiant battle for 2.5 years, defying the odds. Debbie was a wonderful and devoted daughter, granddaughter, sister, and cousin, and later a dearly loved wife to Harvey, mother to Mark and Jennifer, and mother-in-law to Eva, and Baba to Nathaniel. Debbie and I grew up in Fort William, Ontario, now known as Thunder Bay. Deb's mother and my dad were sister and brother. So we shared our grandparents, our Baba Sussi and Zeta Mendel Haber. As young girls, we were very close, having sleepovers, playing with dolls, sharing toys, and trading all kinds of things. We were also the subjects of torment and teasing by Debbie's older brother, Meyer. And then in turn, we both teased my younger brother, Bernie, known to the family as Barry. And in latter years, Debbie and my brother of beloved memory became very, very, very close. We both took ballet classes, and we would create our own recitals to entertain our parents and grandparents. Debbie, of course, would, because she had a fabulous voice, would also sing at these little created recitals. She loved music, and even in her latter days, she still would participate in the services and music programs at Simpkin Center. I know it was one of the things that always gave her joy. We always maintained our strong bond, although my family moved to Winnipeg from Thunder Bay, or from Fort William, a few years before Molly and Al and Debbie and Arnie, that's our uncle, her late uncle in Chicago, Meyer. It didn't change anything. We quickly reconnected. In later years, I moved to Toronto and then on to Ottawa, where I live now and have been for the last 48 years. Hello, we always looked forward to our getting together, as I would always make a trip back to Winnipeg at least once a year, and at one time more frequently than that. Even during COVID, I still made my trip here, but wasn't able to visit with Debbie, although I had wanted to, because she was waiting to have surgery on an eye and had to stay away from anybody so as not to get infected with any kind of illness. One of my very favorite childhood memories, and there are lots, was about a very special blue silk doll quilt that my grandmother from the other side of the family, my mother's mother, had made for me. And then my Baba Ronnie later gifted Debbie with this quilt when Debbie was visiting my other grandparents, because my grandmother figured because we were so close, it wouldn't matter to me that she had given this quilt to Debbie and that I would still get to see it from time to time. I also recall how our mothers would often buy us the same dresses. We were very close. I'm a year older, and so they would sometimes dress us alike. However, Debbie would always get the pink one, and I would have to get the blue one, because our mothers thought that Debbie looked better in pink and I looked better in blue. Although, notice I have pink in my hair and not blue. I preferred pink. Debbie had a huge heart and shared her love and kindness with everyone. Being a nurturer and caregiver was definitely her passion. She was an incredible child care worker, and for many, many years she ran her own home daycare. Not only did she raise her own family, Mark and Jennifer, she helped raise numerous other children throughout her lifetime, and she looked after Harvey too. Debbie, you were very much loved. You will be sadly missed by all who knew you, and you will always have a special place in our hearts. Harvey, Jennifer, Mark, and Eva, cherish her memories. May they comfort you at this time, and may you know no further sorrow. Thank you, everybody.
Mark. Sure. Hey, cutie. Just try and get as close to it as you can. Well, no, that's not for you. Just wanted to start off by just saying thank you to everyone for being here. I did want to give a special thank you to Sandra and Dave, Amy and Jason and Heather for all the support over the last few years they were able to give my parents. It's just incredible. I don't know how many people have ever heard the saying that man makes a plan and God laughs. And I don't know what everybody else was planning to do today, but even I and Nate were supposed to be driving to Vancouver to go see our favorite band play at the Vogue in Vancouver. And it was the first time they were going to be there in 7 years. Jennifer should be about halfway to Thunder Bay right now to visit her friends and go to this. And she was going to go to the States. My mom certainly had a gift when it came to timing. The real kicker of all that is, yesterday was my dad's birthday. She loved to make jokes and had a great sense of humor. One of her favorite stories growing up was on April Fool's. She took all the aces out of her mom's deck of cards. And when she came home from school that day, asked her mom if she had won any games of solitaire. And when she told her no, she proudly handed the aces back to her. Her maiden name was Tool, and the kids in school used to pick on her and ask her what kind of tool she was. She would tell them a hammer and give them a smack. One of Jennifer and I's favorite stories was one time my dad was bending over to pick something up off the floor, and she ripped a piece of newspaper at the same time. And it sounds exactly like pants ripping, and his face got beet red as he ran to the bedroom to make sure. As she looked around very innocently. She was a joy to be around. Most of my favorite memories growing up are with her. We used to have a summer tradition of going to Rainbow Stage to see whatever play they had there that summer. And we also used to have an annual trip to Tinkertown. But even just the day-to-day playing cards or Rummikub was just something that I always looked forward to. I'm still pretty unbeatable at it. She was a very special person and had a positive impact on everybody she met. Everybody that got to know her, she was warm and kind to. When she closed her daycare and went back into the workforce, she had to take a bus, and by the end of the week, she knew everybody's name, the bus driver's name on the route, and she just made fast friends with everybody. She became friends with most of the friends that Jennifer and I had growing up. Even when I went to Israel and had roommates there that she had never met, she added them on Facebook and kept in touch with them probably better than I did. She became affectionately known to both of Jennifer's and I's friends as Mama Stoff. When I was 18 and decided it was a good idea to join the traveling carnival, it was my mom who I called when I needed rescuing, and she made my dad drive 16 hours round trip to get me and my friend, who were both very dirty and smelly, for the entire car ride back.
Sure. Especially going back home over the window.
After our wedding, we made a scrapbook, and when I say we, I mean Eva did all the work. And we got copies of all 4 speeches, and my mom mailed us a handwritten copy of her speech. And not only that, my dad says it's not even the original. Yeah. She was so excited to be a grandma. Nate and I used to sit and call her, and she would giggle at joy when she would answer the phone and we would say, "Hi, Grandma." She would sing the same songs to Nate that Jennifer and I grew up listening to. She also did the best animal noises you've ever heard. I'm pretty good, but she blew me out of the water. Put me to shame. The last memory I wanted to share about my mom isn't my own. It's one from one of the employees at the Simpkin Center that I was told yesterday. They had a new resident come in who was not in good shape and had knots all in her hair. It took the staff there 6 hours for them to get the knots out of her hair. And my mom sat there and sang nursery rhymes to her for the entire time. And when I heard that story yesterday, it didn't surprise me at all. That's just the type of person that she was, and the way that she liked to help whoever she could. That's all I got. Yeah. Do you want to say bye-bye, Grandma?
Thank you, Mark. A beautiful eulogy. Thank you, Candace. Beautiful. We'll now chant the El Malei Rachamim, the traditional memorial prayer in honor of Debbie Stoffman. El Malei
Rachamim shochein bamromim Hamsei menucha nechona tachat kanfei Hashchina b'malot kedoshim uteorim kezohar arakia mazhirim et nishmat Devora Esther Bat Eliyahu HaKohen uMiriam Shelcha leolama Began Eiden de Menuchata Anabal Harachamim Hastirea Beseiter Kenafecha Leolamim Utzror Vitzror Achaim Enishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach V'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Debbie Stoffman, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that she find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. In a moment, we will recite the Mourner's Kaddish and conclude. The family will lead us, and everyone's invited to participate in shoveling earth into the grave. More about that in a moment. After the service, there will be a meal of consolation as we continue to honor Debbie by sharing stories about her, but we also turn our attention to comforting her family. Harvey, Jennifer, Mark and Eva, Nate, Nathaniel. In the spirit of that, I encourage everyone to continue to reach out with your phone calls and your text messages and your emails and your stories. The meal of consolation will be held at Canada Inn's Garden City, dining room number 4. Canada Inn's Garden City, dining room number 4. And anyone who would like to visit the family tomorrow, they'll be gathering at the Simpkins Center, beginning at 11 in the morning. I'll be there for a few hours, I imagine, if you want to come to the Simpkins Center tomorrow for a Shiva visit to pay your respects. For shoveling the earth, again, the family will lead us, but everyone is invited to participate because this familiar ritual of shoveling earth into the grave is how we follow through on accompanying our loved one to her final resting place. It's a mitzvah, a selfless act we do without any hope of reward, because we believe in Jewish tradition that our loved ones deserve to be buried by our own hands. Kind, knowing, sorrowful hands, hands that held their hands. Most people pour 3 shovelfuls of earth, but then there are different customs. Some people use the front of the shovel, some people use the back of the shovel. Some people will return the shovel to the earth when they're done. Other people will pass it to the next person. The custom with which you are familiar, I encourage you to embrace. We can line up from both directions. There are multiple shovels. People can come from both directions. We always tell people to be very just careful around the gravesite. And if you want to participate, but you don't want to use one of the big shovels, there's a pail right here in front of us that Avram just moved out that has a small shovel and sand and small stones inside, so you can use that as well. So we'll recite the Kaddish, and then we'll be able to let the family lead us, and then everyone will be able to help us in honoring and burying Debbie. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming together. Thank you to our pallbearers, again, and thank you to Candace and to Mark for your beautiful eulogies, and to the family for this honor. We now turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. As we do, we again repeat the words of Job, the epitome of suffering in Jewish tradition. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. God has given, God has taken, blessed be the name of God. May Debbie Stoffman's memory be a blessing, as we mark that her essence will never leave the hearts and souls she did touch throughout her life. The Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'Yit Gadash Shemei Rabah. Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabah mevorach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, huya aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity, as again together we can say, Amen. To the family we say, Hamakom yinachem etchem betoch Shaarey ve'leit Zion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled. May God comfort and console you among all those who are or who have ever been in mourning in our community. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. And I invite the family to come forward.